And we begin tonight with the Doomsday couple, Chad and Lori Daybell. The two were inseparable for months, but now there may be some trouble in paradise. Of course, their paradise has changed from Hawaii to separate Idaho jail cells. The state wants to prosecute them together, and it seems as though Lori is fine with the idea of sitting with Chad at the defense table. She said as much in a new filing with the court, which reads, in part, comes now the defendant, Lori Noreen Vallow, a.k.a. Lori Noreen Daybell, and provide notice that she does not object to the motion for joinder filed by the plaintiff on or about September 1st, 2020. Seems reasonable that she'd like to be sitting with her husband, Chad, during her upcoming trial, but what does Chad think about being with Lori? Let's bring in Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter, anchors Julie Grant and Michael Ayala, and Court TV special contributor Ashley Banfield. Chanley, to you, apparently Chad is not as excited maybe as Lori about sitting next to each other at trial.
You are correct, Ted. His defense filed an objection to the state of Idaho's motion to join him with Lori in the same trial. In fact, in the document that he filed for the objection, it said it would be extremely prejudicial for Chad Daybell to be joined with his wife in the same trial, saying that, look, joining both of them together in the trial will just amplify the amount of publicity the case will get and taint prospective jurors because they want to impanel fair and impartial jurors at the trial. The standard for the defense to overcome this motion for joinder is to show substantial prejudice and to say that this would affect his right to a fair trial. Of course, Lori's defense is taking a different approach, saying it's not objecting to being joined with Chad in the same trial. And if we look at Idaho law, Idaho Rule of Criminal Procedure 8B and 13, it says two or more defendants may be joined if they are alleged to have participated in the same act or transaction or in the set of acts or transactions constituting an offense or offenses. And it goes on to say all of the defendants need not be charged in each count. In the state's motion to join the two together, it argued that, look, we're going to have the same witnesses, the same evidence, the same crimes. Why don't we, for judicial efficiency, try them both together? Now we have Lori saying, okay, I won't object, but Chad doesn't want it to happen.
Michael Ayala, are you more surprised that Chad wanted to separate or that Lori doesn't mind being tried with her husband?
You know, I think they're both very, very consistent with the way they've sort of conducted themselves throughout this pretrial situation. I think Chad is in a situation where he doesn't want to be juxtaposed with his wife because it puts him in a position of looking like a dominant individual. And I don't think she has a problem being portrayed as someone who is perhaps subservient to him. So she doesn't mind sitting next to him because when you juxtapose the two, she certainly takes that position. But one of the things that I wanted to point out was that, you know, this is really a procedural type approach. They're looking at the actual acts of the people and the evidence being brought in. And the argument by Chad really, to me, doesn't hold water. Is it really going to be, is there really going to be less publicity if it's only him on trial as opposed to both of them? I'm not sure that holds water. And if there ever was a case that screamed joinder to me, this seems like one of them.
Julie Grant, it seems though, to Michael's point, Chad actually is the person that Lori's got a better argument that she shouldn't be with Chad because he is charged with a more serious set of crimes. She's a conspirator to those crimes. It's kind of reversed if you're going to argue for separation. What's your take on Lori wanting to be with her husband and Chad saying, no, thank you?
Absolutely, Ted. That's a great point. It seems like we're in opposite land, as Vinny said, from time to time with this and the way their positions are shaking out. Three quick things. Number one, joinder in this case is absolutely proper. The court should join them. It's alleged that they acted together. Remember, the big evidentiary link is her dead kids in his backyard. So if, as Michael said, I completely agree. If there was ever a case that should be joined, it's this one. So number one, the court should do it. Number two, yes, you would think Chad would take that position. And we have to think of the optics. Anytime anyone goes to trial, you have to think of the optics. So how does this look to the jury? If he were to go to trial alone, let's just say the court would grant the motion to join, grant a motion to sever. Let's just say they're separately tried. Chad goes to trial. His wife, she's the woman that he married and alleged to be the co-defendant in the case, isn't sitting there. The optics look bad. And number three, I really think his best bet is to have a united front with his wife, Lori, and do the doomsday defense. And if they have a prayer, truly, I think their best bet is pointing the finger at the defendant who can't sit there because he's deceased, old Uncle Alex. That's what I think, Ted. I think that's their best bet.
But couldn't they go against each other too at trial? You know, having someone next to you is not as effective as having the boogeyman. You know, the person that's not there, that jurors just hear about. You know, ooh, the mean Lori whose kids are dead. Ashley, what's your thought on? First of all, two questions. Do you think it is beneficial to separate or to be together for both of them legally? And do you think there's anything going on in the marriage? Is there trouble in paradise here? Because Chad doesn't want to be with Lori.
Yeah, there's trouble in paradise because being in two separate jails is a bummer when you're newlyweds, for starters. I agree with everything that Julie said, and I always agree with everything that Julie says. Let's just get that straight, okay? But I think she makes some really good points. I mean, the truth is, it is so ridiculous to spend the amount of money that that state is going to have to spend to try them both, because they're going to have to use all of the same people, all of the same witnesses, all of the same evidence, all of the same officers, everything. So it's a big old pain in the butt to run two trials because the evidence is all the same. But here's where I think that Lori is crazy like a fox. I think that by suggesting that she should be a devoted wife and sit by her man in that trial, it speaks to what her defense might be, which is, I'm a devoted wife. I believed in him. He's not only my husband, but he's also my Svengali-like religious leader. I never for a moment thought those children were dead, and I still don't. I really believe that she could bring this kind of a case as a cult follower who was hoodwinked by a man who had designs on offing his own wife to take on this new one and found her children to be too much for him. And I think if she sits there, she can prove that she's still dutiful and still believes in him, and that this has all been horrifying for her. I think jurors would easily eat that up.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then you add Uncle Alex into the mix, and you do have a lot of the jurors using their minds. Let's take a listen to the only time that we've ever heard Chad and Lori interacting together in that phone call while Chad's backyard was being dug up by the FBI.
Hi, Dad.
Hello.
Are you okay?
So there's some property.
The house right now?
Yeah. Yeah. So Mark Mills will be talking to you.
Okay.
Yeah, dutiful wife, like Ashley said, very upbeat, and he's got the ruh-roh feeling. He's very subdued throughout that whole phone call. Chanley, several outstanding motions in this case still need to be decided. When will they happen?
Well, I scoured the court file. There's a new notice of hearing in Chad Daybell's case outlining key times when the court will take up those motions, those outstanding motions, like you said. First, in October 29th, the judge will take up a motion to dismiss, 11 a.m. Eastern, a motion for joinder that we just talked about. Now, again, Chad Daybell's objecting to that, so that's when he will make arguments. The judge will decide on whether or not to join on October 29th. And then November 24th is a big motion to change venue in Chad Daybell's case. That will be heard then. But right now, before this motion is decided, there's two separate trial dates, Ted. And of course, Chad's in January 11th through 29th. But the news here is, in a recent filing, Lori Vallow Daybell's trial date has moved up. That will happen actually earlier now than what we heard during her arraignment a couple of weeks ago. Now her new trial date is March 22nd through April the 2nd, 2021.
But if they're joined, it would likely go with the latter one that's currently
right.
with Chad.
That all would change.
Michael Ayala, if you are representing Lori Vallow, would you want Chad sitting next to her, or is it easier for you to make him the bad guy if he's not in the room?
No, I think, one of the things that you see about this relationship is that, he has a powerful personality, and I think she has come off. I think she's been playing a role from the very beginning, and as we've used the term crazy like a fox from very early on. And I think she's played this sort of meek woman role, and I think it's much easier to play that role sitting next to him than sitting alone. I think sitting next to him, she's able to use her clothing, her mannerisms, and if she's allowed to speak anything she says in a positive way for her case. So I think it makes perfect sense that he would love for her to be sitting here. Her attorney would love for her to be sitting right next to him in that courtroom and portraying and playing this role.
Ashley, who do you think is steering this ship, and who was steering this ship during this whole thing? Was Lori making the calls here, or was it Chad, or was it a Whitney, Bobby Brown, both of them, both all in?
You score with the Whitney Bobby Brown reference. Wow, Ted, I'm impressed. I honestly really think, I look back on so many pieces of the evidence in the case, and I wonder, wow, that doesn't sound like somebody who doesn't know what's going on. When I listened to the tape you just played, though, and there's a longer version of it that I always encourage our viewers to listen to. More evidence is better. She was kind of like confused and nonplussed by the notion that the police were there searching. And her first reaction out of the gate was, in the house? And think about this for a moment. If she knew that those children's bodies were in the yard, do you not think the first thing she would say is, where are they searching? Or are they searching the yard? But she seems to be genuinely asking, are they searching the house? Like, searching the house again, Chad? And the tone in her voice really struck me as someone who just wasn't super aware of all the details in this grisly case. And I think that's going to be something and in that respect, I don't think she was calling the shots. I think that's where I got the idea that maybe she wasn't calling the shots, because I didn't think she really knew where the shots were.
Julie, do you think Lori had no idea that her children were buried in Chad's backyard?
Oh, I think Lori knew. I think Lori's pants on fire all day long, Ted. I think she is really one for the history books. And the one thing I still keep thinking about is that what if homicide charges come sometime soon? Then all of this really gets blown up, because think about it, prosecutors wouldn't want to go to trial on charges that aren't as serious. If investigators do find enough evidence to link Lori and Chad, or one or the other, to the deaths of her two kids, they're going to want to proceed on those homicide charges first, because the penalty is so much greater. So this is really tricky. Every day I keep waiting. It's like the clock is ticking. What are we waiting for? We know the autopsies are done. Remember, Tammy Daybell's death is still being investigated. So I really wonder if we're going to see a trial on these charges come January, if that's the go date for Chad, or later in the year if they're joined together. I still really think this could all get really shaken up, and there could be big things coming for those two.
Yeah, Michael, I wonder if they have enough evidence for that.
Yeah, when we talk about the murder charges, I mean, they're probably going for what they can get. And also you have to remember, they don't want to go into a trial feeling at a disadvantage. And with this boogeyman, Uncle sitting out there, both of them could take the approach they're going to point the finger at this third party and create a reasonable doubt. Not that difficult. So I think they're going to go for what they can get. This is where they are right now. Certainly, if there's some bombshell evidence that pops up, they'll do what they have to do. But I think they're comfortable going forward with the case they have right now.
Yeah, we just thought Uncle Alex was taking the kids to the prepper bunker. We had no idea. Chad's backyard. What? We're upset too. Chanley, Lori can now wear street clothes to all of her appearances. Has that been cemented?
Yes, so that's been put on the record in the court file. There was a short one-sentence motion from Mark Means, her attorney, saying by stipulation of the parties, we move that she can wear street clothes in all the proceedings moving forward. There's a short one-sentence order the judge signed and basically said the same thing, on the condition that she, her team, her defense team, provides those street clothes. She can wear whatever she wants in court.
Does that matter, Ashley? I mean, there's no jury, right? Why?
No, but there's us, right? Right? There's all of us watching on TV, and eventually some of us are going to get picked for the jury. Not this group right here, for many reasons, geographical and otherwise. But, I do think that it's probably a good idea in a case that has headlines like this, that already she's vilified, demonized. She's Casey Anthony, for God's sake, already. It's probably a good idea to make her look less like a criminal, because I think a lot of people think that she's a criminal.
Bottom line is people are just absolutely heartbroken by the end of this. And one of the people that has expressed her opinion was one of Chad and Lori's closest confidants throughout this whole process, and that is Melanie Gibb. She summed it up in an interview with the East Idaho News. Take a listen.
I hope that they can realize this is pure evil. There's nothing good. The whole goal for them was to be together, and they're not. All the things that they thought were going to happen, their predicted revelations, can you not see that nothing happened the way you thought they would happen? At some point, you have to say to yourself, nothing happened. We're not together. We're both in jail. And now 4 people that were in our family are dead. There comes a point where you got to wake up and realize there's some either mental illness there, some evil influences there. At some point, you're going to have to come to that realization that you can't live in this pretended bubble that you believe in anymore. It's got to pop eventually, because you're not going to come out of jail. You're going to be there for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I love that summation by a very good friend who believed everything that Chad was spewing for months and months, and for her to come to that realization is powerful. She's going to be a big part of this trial, whatever it looks like, whether it's a murder trial or the current charges.